Oh, hey, this is Tom Seymour with VHS Masker / Tim Kulig Free Music.
Yep.
I'm here with Mr. Jon Navarro,
Hey guys.
the Emmy-nominated Jon Navarro,
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Thank
which
you.
I was just watching your teaser because it'd been a little bit since I saw the film.
Yeah.
I was like, oh man, he's in it too. So it's like you're an Emmy-nominated actor and a director now.
I wish. No, we didn't get nominated in the craft category for acting.
Oh,
But,
okay.
But it would be cool. I mean, I could say that, but yeah, no, it wouldn't be accurate. But yeah, no, we tried. I mean, I had submitted myself and the actress Jocelyn Catassis. I had submitted us in the craft category, but we didn't make that. We made the group category though, so can't
That's
complain.
fantastic. So tell me about that. Yeah, tell me about that nomination.
I mean, it kind of came about really by accident, for lack of a better word, but it was just an opportunity that presented itself to me via my connection with the CUNY Film Festival. CUNY TV, which is going into its 40th year now, they had reached out to all of the different branches of the CUNY universities, the city universities, and all of the schools that had, I guess, film programs and film festivals associated with the programs. And because Macaulay Honors College was the first and the longest running one, they gave them the first bite at the apple. And so they reached out to the program director there and said, hey, give us, reach out to your alumni, reach out to everybody who's ever gotten into the festival, and let's see what we can curate for you guys to premiere and preview on a special edition of CUNY TV Presents. And so that's kind of how the nomination came about. It was like a program adjacent. So because it aired through them last year, I believe originally it premiered in February, and then it got such a positive response. They did an encore presentation in May, and that fell into the window of when the Emmy eligibility, when that window became open. So because of that, we were able to kind of slide in that way.
Very cool.
I just think it's incredible. For a little background. Well, maybe you tell the audience a little bit, about your background. I know you're a veteran, and we met at LaGuardia Community College, but I don't know. Maybe you want to talk a little bit about that.
I mean, yeah. So my film career started again by accident. A lot of this stuff is by accident. You're gonna hear that a lot. Because I kind of fell into film. I started out as an IT person, and through the military, kind of like being one of those journeymen bouncing around, coming back from being called up for deployment to Iraq, I realized that I didn't really know what the hell I wanted to do yet. And it just so happened that an old high school friend of mine had invited me to a summer barbecue kind of thing right when I got back, kind of as a welcome home thing. And one thing led to another. She, at the time, was working in Broadway. She has a very famous Hollywood relative. And that segued her getting this job in Broadway and having some contacts. And to make a long story short, she had an ex-boyfriend who was in film school and who was working on a thesis film. And they were having a conversation. And she mentioned to him that I used to be a writer in high school and that maybe we should connect. And so he invited me to a set, gave me a PA job. And that first night was kind of like when I got bit by the bug. And then I was like, okay, I got to figure out how to do this. So I started going to the libraries and stuff, learning on my own, going to the Brooklyn Public Library, taking out books and stuff. And then through that, I started looking into film programs. And the only film program that didn't have some type of film prerequisite was the LaGuardia program. And that was how I landed at LaGuardia. So, going through there, learned a lot. And I still say to this day that they have one of the most underrated film programs in the CUNY ecosystem. It's very underrated, very undervalued, but it was a great program. I mean, I don't think that I would be the filmmaker that I am today if I hadn't gone to LaGuardia and lucked out on that.
Oh man, it's a huge compliment.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I met you there. You actually replaced the previous technical director that was there. And we've had this conversation offline before, but it was like watching your documentary, it hit me a lot different and it made so many things make sense to me. The VHS dreams, because at the time I didn't realize you were also going through your own little thing
Yeah.
where you were trying to, so it was really weird to me, again, like 10 years removed from when we first met and how we got introduced to each other, and then watching it back and reflecting. I was just like, wow. So I could relate to all of the sentiments that you were conveying in the film, which, by the way, bravo, because I
Oh,
think,
thanks, man.
and I don't say this lightly, I think you guys should really consider submitting it to some of the bigger stuff because it was very impactful. But yeah,
Thanks, man.
Thanks.
that was how my career started. I lucked into it, but once I started doing it, I realized, okay, I think this is what I've been looking for my entire life. And at that point, I was like 25, 26. I was already a two-time college dropout by choice, kind of by circumstance. At first started at Hofstra University as an IT, pursuing IT, and then got caught up in the, financial aid, not understanding how things work mechanism. Then from there, landed at DeVry Institute of Technology, was about a semester removed from graduating there, and then ran out of financial aid. Apparently, I hit a financial aid ceiling. They were like, you don't have any more money left. You've got to take out private loans. And then they changed the program, the program requirements. So it was like the final semester, they had changed it from telecommunications management to network communications management. So there were different prerequisites and criteria for graduating. So all of that kind of like left me in this educational limbo. So when I decided to go back to school and go to the LaGuardia to pursue film, it was like, okay, it's all or nothing at this point. If I'm making this choice, I'm not turning back. So I took all of my military bonus money, which was like $5,000 at the time. I invested in some camera equipment, which back then was supposedly cutting edge, but little did I know, about a year later, it was going to be completely obsolete by the DSLR stuff. So it was crazy, but it was cool. I wouldn't trade it for anything. It was a great experience.
Well, you're in good company. It took me about 12 years to get my undergrad finished.
Yeah.
And I had some false starts like 3 or 4 times, changed my major like 5. So
Wow.
you're not alone. You're not alone.
Okay,
And
cool.
you both have master's degrees now, right? Don't you?
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
I got my master's. I was trying to pursue a doctorate, but I hit pause on that because one of my mentors said, if you get a doctorate and you're trying to be serious in film, nobody's going to take you seriously. Like,
Really?
you're either going to just be an educator and be happy with that, or be one of these cinema scholars, but you're not going to be, no one in the industry is going to take you seriously if you get your doctorate and you're trying to still be like a working filmmaker.
That's
So
strange.
it's what preferable would be MA or MFA, right? Is
Yeah.
that what it was? Yeah.
Yeah, that was the
Yeah.
feedback I got. And so I was like, okay, you know what? I
Interesting.
hear that and I receive it. I can always go back for my doctorate whenever.
Mm-hmm.
So I just hit pause on that. And then that was around 2016. And that was when I really started going hard and really kind of laser focusing on my career and what I wanted to do.
Wow. I think it's incredible. You took an incredible path. I definitely can relate to a lot of it, but it just goes to show you like what concoction of experience is needed. It's like you had military experience, you had self-education, then you had academia, and then you had on-set training.
Yeah.
And I think you need kind of all of that. Pretty much all of that.
Well, it rounds you out, right? It rounds out like the whole experience rounds you out, and it gives you those different levels of experience. So when you come to the director's chair and you come to the writing table, you have all those things to culminate this idea, not just this one singular path that kind of keeps you myopic to things, right?
Yeah, I kind of lucked out. Like I said, being introduced to that first filmmaker, he kind of gave me a little bit of direction. He was like, listen, you can get your feet wet doing PA work. There's this website called Mandy at the time, which was free and was listing all of these production jobs. And so that was how I kind of segued into the industry, got my first 4 or 5 PA jobs through Mandy. And that ended up leading into me interning for the New York Latino Film Festival, which coincided right around the time that I started LaGuardia. And so I interned there for 2 years under Calixto Chinchilla, who was the founder of the festival.
Is that the one associated with HBO?
Yes. So when I had gotten in 2017, the HBO was their primary sponsor, and I think now it's Warner Brothers Discovery was their sponsor
Oh,
this year. It changes every year because of all the flux that's been going on in the industry with consolidation and companies getting bought off and kind of transitioning or merging. So, but yeah, so but I kind of lucked out that way. That led to other jobs. So, you know, building a reputation of being reliable and people referring me to other people. So my first, 5, 10 gigs, I shadowed a lot of really good people and they were really generous with their time and information. I like my first DP mentor was a guy named Eddie Pagan. Eddie Pagan runs a magazine web program called Latino Horror, and him and his partner Christian Moran, they kind of have created this space for the Latin horror community. But working with him, I learned a lot about camera work, camera movement, camera lighting. So I brought all of that knowledge with me when I came into LaGuardia. I'm just doing random PA jobs and just shadowing different people and trying to learn from them. So I came in there with a little bit of an advanced aptitude, but what LaGuardia gave me was it showed me how to put polish and finishing touches on things. Learning from you in the editing lab, how to do certain things with effects, little like tips and tricks in the editing room, to kind of maximize the effect of what I was trying to communicate with my storytelling. That's stuff that if I had only done it on my own, probably would have taken a lot longer. But again, yeah, I lucked out. It all culminated and contributed to my development, but it wasn't one thing or the other, like Tim was saying. It really was kind of like everything put together. But I lucked out. I had a lot of really good mentors.
so you kind of were doing gigs and academia kind of on and off, like tit for tat, like over like
Yes,
essentially decades,
yes,
or yeah.
yes, simultaneously. So as I was pursuing my associates at LaGuardia, I was being referred to different PA jobs by different people. Some of them were my professors at LaGuardia. So like John Henry David was putting me onto stuff. He was bringing me onto some of his commercial jobs, PAing for him. So I was getting to learn from his DPs, his professional DPs that he was working with, and at the same time watching what the directing process looked like in different mediums. So I was getting to see how it looked in the theater medium, how it looked in the commercial space, and then how it would look in the TV and the film space. So I was shadowing all these different people. And then that kind of led to uh, uh, I ended up getting like an associate producer gig with People Espanol. And that led to me working my first live red carpet event.
Oh
So,
wow.
and again, completely different monster, completely
Yeah.
different juggernaut, learning how to work a video village and how to communicate to multiple cameras and then watching the TD, operating everything and making sure everything is kind of moving in a specific type of rhythm and pace and hitting your commercials. So it was, again, you kind of, for me anyway, I fell into a lot of lucky situations. They weren't all great. I do have some of the horror stories that we all kind of experienced as we're
Yeah.
Yeah.
going through, yeah, as we're going through this industry. But by and large, most of my stuff has been positive, and I lucked into a lot of good situations.
I think you can't undervalue one of the things that you said there, which is the fact that you were going to school, learning concepts, building on things that you already, like some of the things you already knew, learning new things that were adding to that value, but at the same time, in parallel, acting on those new skills and working at the same time. There's no better way to reinforce what you're learning than to actively being involved with productions, right? And
Yeah.
just reinforce, like what you did was basically like hit jump speed, light speed on your career by paralleling it and working in the industry at the same time while you're going to school. Like bravo, dude. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is
And
awesome.
I think that that could be kind of the key ingredient, because we do have students. I'm more on the new media technology side now, and there's some brilliant students. But I talk to a lot of them, and they don't really have a side hustle, and some of them are independently developing their own animations and video games and stuff like that. That's brilliant. But like the way Tim and I grew up, it was like we had to be working, almost full time when we were
Mm.
going to college. I was volunteering at public access. I was making my own independent films and saving up money to do so. And so by the time I was finished my degree, I had all this different stuff on my resume. So
Uh-huh.
I just don't think, I think, the idea of like just going to college and not having some kind of parallel thing going on. I don't know. I just like, it's great to get all straight A's. Like, don't get me wrong. Um,
But if you don't have
and
a
if
body of work afterwards, what's the point? Right?
Yeah,
Like,
I
yeah,
suppose it depends on the field that you're studying, right?
right,
Because like
right.
if you want to get straight A's so you could go to Yale or something. Yeah, you probably will have a different life than most of us. But
Right.
it really just depends. If you're into film production, it's like, there's different paths. I should just say.
Yeah.
Well, I think, you guys started out in a time that was pre-digital. Everything was mostly analog. And in a lot of ways, you guys were self-taught. Like when I was watching your documentary, kind of just seeing the process of how you guys came into the business, I was just like, okay, they went the public access route, and then we're like, learning through that space. That was like their film school before film school. And for me, it was similar, but I wasn't aware of public access at the time. So my public access, or my outlet for how I could get the information, was the library, because that same friend who had invited me to the barbecue, she also put me on to Robert Rodriguez. I think it was this 10-minute film school
Yeah.
in Mariachi.
Yep.
So
Yep.
she was a huge fan of Robert Rodriguez. I had never heard of Robert Rodriguez, and she was like, "You should really watch this guy if you're thinking about doing this seriously. Like, this guy talks about how you can do it on the cheap, and like, different tips and tricks and stuff." So she lent me her DVD trilogy, the Mariachi trilogy, and
Hmm.
on each of them, he had a 10-minute film school segment for each of the movies. And that was initially my first film school before taking out the books. So
Those were excellent. I remember those. I remember every one of those. He was so open with his information. He didn't That's one of the best things about that dude. He
mm,
didn't keep secrets.
Yeah.
He was excited to tell you everything he learned, That was really pretty amazing. So I love Robert Rodriguez, and Rebel Without a Crew is one of my favorite books. So yeah, totally. You're the Emmy nominated. Wait, you could say you're the director of the Emmy nominated film, right?
yeah,
See, that's cool. Uh, it's called Soledad, right?
yeah, Soledad.
And so maybe tell us a little bit about that, the production of that.
Well, Soledad again was like something. It's weird. It brought me full circle back to LaGuardia, because it started. The idea for it started in the screenwriting class, screenwriting one, at LaGuardia. Learning how to write short films, and the professor at the time is named a guy named James Felder, who was he had been a screenwriter for Marvel Studios and was also a professor, a tenured professor at NYU's film school. So that's why I say all the time, like, LaGuardia's program was very underrated, because a lot of the faculty that we had teaching us were coming from these major institutions, Columbia University, New York University, NIFA. My first film teacher, he was a guy named Jonathan Knight. He was an NIFA alum, and I think he was the director of the Blue Man Group. So, like, we had a lot of really great people, but I wrote the story there. It was initially intended to be like a post 9/11 story. It was my way of kind of working through some of the different tiers of like grief and I guess like PTSD to a certain extent, because when 9/11 happened, you know, there were a lot of different things that had happened to me personally within my family and other things I won't get into, but it was something that had a tremendous effect on me. And so when I started at LaGuardia, that we were a decade removed from that incident, and yet there were still two gaping holes in the ground. There was no progress made on, repairing those wounds.
Mm.
And so I was writing the film to kind of deal with and grapple with that, like the void of losing something that is so precious to you and you have so many memories. And it just so happened that at the same time, my grandmother had passed away. So I was conjoining these two ideas of dealing with the vacuum of post 9/11 and dealing with the vacuum of losing this woman who, was, tremendously impactful in my life and in my upbringing. And so that was the original idea, was this guy kind of walking through this void lost. And it was originally called The Lonely Man. And then, you know, I kind of put it on the shelf. I wrote it for the class, put it on the shelf, was still ironing out. And then when I started going for my graduate degree, one of the screenwriting professors there said, "Hey, the assignment for this week is a mood piece." So I showed him that script. He was like, "I think this would be good for a mood piece. Why don't you try to shoot it?" So I did. And then I reached out to some of my LaGuardia alumni. So I reached out to some of the actors and actresses that I had kind of come through the LaGuardia Performing Arts Center program with, who I thought were phenomenal and who I thought would do a really good job. One of them was this guy named Michael Munoz, and then Jocelyn Catastas. And they were originally supposed to play opposite each other in the film. What ended up happening was the weekend we decided to shoot, we got hit with a nor'easter kind of Arctic bomb. So it was supposed
Mm.
to be like 75, 80 degrees, and it ended up being 35 degrees. So Mike got sick and wasn't able to come to the shoot. And so then I had to fill in for Mike. And I didn't feel comfortable or confident in my ability to convey what I needed conveyed. And so then we ended up switching the roles. So then originally Jocelyn was supposed to play the ghost, the spirit of all the lost loved ones. Me feeling that she was a stronger actor than I was, I switched it. I made her the grieving person, and then I played the ghost. And then what
Mm.
this did for me was it freed me up to not be on camera as much and actually be able to direct Jocelyn, and really get the performance out of her that I wanted to get out of Michael. And so that was kind of how we did it. And it was all kind of like a day of situation.
Wow.
And we filmed it in 2 days, the two coldest days in Coney Island. So if you watch this film, which the film will be screening next Friday at the Cinema Veterans Film Showcase in Lincoln Center.
Excellent. Wow. Congrats. That's
Awesome.
huge.
Thank you. So that's going to be the final public screening. So if you guys want to come out and support the film, I'll leave you guys a link that you can kind of post to your viewers and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was the two coldest days in October. And then right after we shot it, it was back to warm weather. So when you see us frolicking out there and, a dress in shorts, it looks like summer, but it's literally like 35 degrees. And
God,
with the
just
wind
above
chill
freezing.
factor and the ocean, felt like it was like 30 below. It was freezing.
Oh,
Did it help the production in the sense that you were more isolated on the beach frolicking?
It did. It did. So there was less interference. There weren't as many people out there on the beach. So it really lent itself to that feeling of isolation, which I thought conveyed itself really well. And then one of the really happy accident, it ended up being like slightly overcast that day. And for some reason, when we were shooting it, every time I had to step up to walk down the beach behind the behind Jocelyn, the clouds would move in and block the sun. And we were exposing for this. It was when it was sunny, it was bright. So we were
Right.
exposing for the sun exposure. But every time a cloud came in, of course, it would make everything dark. So it looked like a special effect, but it was actually all done practical in camera.
Oh,
Wow.
that's awesome.
So when we had gotten into the SEMTI Centennial Showcase back in 2016, 2017, happy accident with that. When we were there, it was the 100th anniversary of the SEMTI, Society of Motion Picture Television Engineers, and they were honoring James Cameron and Douglas Trumbull. Douglas Trumbull was the special effects person for Blade Runner. And I
Wow.
didn't know at the time when we were screening, we screened at the Egyptian Theater in Hollywood, that they were going to be there. So they saw this, they saw the film, they saw the screening, and it was the day before the actual gala. So I was only supposed to be there for the festival, but James, I think, told the director of the SEMTI program that he wanted to invite me to his table. I didn't know this at the time. So she
Wow.
gives me the invitation to attend the gala. I'm thinking I'm just going to be there. And then when I get there, they say, you're with Mr. Cameron. You're at the VIP section.
Wow.
And
That's
so
so
they escort me to the James Cameron section. And I'm like, because I was like completely unaware that this was happening, I was totally caught off guard. But it was one of the cooler experiences. And the one thing that I can recall James saying to me was like, how'd you get those effects on the beach? Like, how'd you get everything?
oh,
And so
what a
then I had to
cool
explain to him, I was like,
experience.
well, actually, that was shot in camera, practical. And my camera operator kept wanting me to redo it. But when I looked at the playback, I was like, no, it works. It works for what the scene was calling for. So we left it in, and we didn't redo it. We didn't do a second take.
Hmm.
So yeah. And I got to
Wow.
listen to him talk about all the Avatar movies he was planning at the time.
That's
And
so cool.
yeah, so that was a really cool experience. But again, it was something I lucked into,
Well, what did
because
they say? The harder you work, the luckier you get.
I
You know.
guess
Hey,
so. Yeah,
let me show this. I just want to show the clip real quick.
yeah,
Give me 1 second.
yeah, yeah.
I'm gonna show the teaser. All right. Yeah. Sorry that thing popped up there.
No, it's okay. Just making sure my charger's plugged in. We don't get cut off accidentally.
Okay.
But yeah, that
That's
that that was the coldest day, and it was funny because it looks like it's two different days, right? Because one day you're like frolicking and in shorts and whatever, and then the next day you're in a coat and sweater. So it looked like there was a passage of time, but it was really just a passage of 2 days,
That's
and
amazing.
it was
wow.
freezing. It was freezing.
Wow. Hey, so yeah, we're getting close to 2, but so tell us again about the screening and where people can find out more about the film and everything.
So the screening is going to be for the Cinema Veteran Showcase, part of the Mayor's Office of Film and Television. NIFA is a sponsor as well, and it's going to be screening at Lincoln Center on Friday the 24th, from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. I believe. There'll be 2 1-hour short blocks with panels in between, and then some Q&A.
Awesome.
So there's a
Great.
QR code. if you go to Mr. Illusion on IG, there's a QR code on my page, or I can give you guys the QR code, the image with the QR code.
Okay, that sounds good.
Awesome.
All right, it's been great catching up with you, John. I'm psyched. When I heard about the Emmy nomination, it was like,
Thank you.
I was delighted. I think it's so cool, man. So
Yeah,
great
no, it was
talking with
cool
you.
catching up with you guys, and again, congratulations to you guys as well with your film, your documentary, VHS
Thanks, man.
Dreams. I was really touched by it. I'm hoping that it continues to do really great things. I'm hoping I get to see you either on the Emmy or the Oscar stage. So,
Thank you.
like I'm rooting for you guys. And if you haven't seen that film, you should really watch it, because it really speaks to kind of like the journey of an independent filmmaker. It'll put you in your fields. It put me in my fields, and it gave me a lot of understanding as to where you were at back when we were doing the uh the
Mark of the
horror
Beast,
movie.
or
Yeah.
Yeah, Mark of the Beast, the Mark of the Beast horror movie.
Yeah, because John was John did all the behind the scenes footage for
Right.
But again,
Mark of the Beast. Yeah, which
last
is
thing,
why he
because
actually has. What was that?
I said last thing, because that was something I wanted to touch on when Tim brought it up. Trust. Doing all these things, you guys were talking about being able to do parallels and being flexible and having a side gig and all this stuff, but it came down to you guys trusting me. You didn't know me from Adam. I was just a student in the film class, and you saw something in me that was like, hey, this kid might work out, if he's available, we could use him on set. And again, watching you and Tim and Jonathan and everybody else that was working on that set, I was just like trying to be a sponge and absorb everything.
That was great having you. And like I said, you did such a good job. Like, what is it? 20 years? I don't know. 15 years later.
Yeah.
Your
It's crazy
footage-
it was that long ago already.
Your footage
Man.
is actually in the doc. Yeah,
Yeah.
John's got a.
Doesn't feel like 15 years. You kind of blink and you're like, where the hell did the time go?
Seriously.
Yeah, it feels like 5 or 6 years ago, right? It feels like
Yeah.
half the time,
Yeah, like
But,
yesterday.
Yeah, well, now I have a film director who has an Emmy-nominated film, who is also archival cinematographer on Video Dreams. So there you go.
Yeah.
So
It works out. And then if you guys submit for next year, you'll have a Emmy-nominated composer and director. I'm putting it.
That'd be
I'm putting it.
That would
into
be
the ether.
awesome.
cool. Yeah, I'm gonna hit you up again when we get closer to trying to get that going.
Yeah.
Any way that I can help, information that I can lend you guys that'll help, get you to that point. I'm more than willing to do that and give that to you guys.
Awesome, man. Okay, well, great to talk to you, and
Yeah, man.
we'll see you soon.
Thanks for having me, guys. Take care.